Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that lost its AAA podcasting license a long time ago. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most weekends or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Silenzio, Bruno.
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and he's my Alberto, but I'm probably his Bruno. It's Andrew Ormsby, everybody.
Oh, boy.
Each week we'll chat about TV, movies, whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome back our guest this week. She's great at this humaning stuff. It's Alice. Welcome back.
G'day.
G'day. I am excited to get into a Pixar movie. It's Pixar Day. Everybody celebrate. It's Pixar Day. We have a new Pixar movie that we're going to chat about with you. I will say this to our video audience, and Phil, as you're producing the audio show, you can leave this in or take it out. It's completely up to you. But I am running the video show today, so thank you for your patience as I try to multitask and do a bunch of stuff at the same time. Like, for instance, this should probably be up here with our
almost.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alice, from Australia.
Wait.
Today we're going to be talking about Luca at the same time. We're going to be talking about the Hitman.
I'm pretty sure that's a hate crime. No.
Hey, you got to watch it. Andrew. That's Australian cultural appropriation that you're doing right there. So you got to be careful.
She said in the pre-show she'd be interested to hear my Australian accent.
That's true.
I don't know what you're talking about. Lies and slander.
We are excited to be hanging out with you guys to talk a couple things. Now, Alice is with us because one of the reasons being you spent some time in Italy. So that is kind of your background, in both of these movies take place in Italy. So tell us a little bit about kind of your history with being in Italy and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I was born there. So that counts as my having been in Italy.
Yes.
Yeah. So my whole family's from Italy. We're all fully Italian. And then when I was about 7, we moved to Australia because classic sort of thing. Dad got a job, moved me there, or moved us all here rather. But I was born in Florence. And then and that's where my mum's from. That's where my dad's from. My mum also has some Sicily in her, a little bit of Bologna. So a little bit of all of Italy, but we're full Italians. We speak Italian all the time. And I mean, I also speak English, obviously, hence why I'm speaking English right now. And so I have also, what I will say, because I'm proper Italian, I am very prejudiced whenever people try to be Italian in movies, which I will mention later on, because there are so many times when people are supposed to be Italian and then they go and speak Italian in movies and the accent is a hot mess. Super Mario,
it's me.
Well, look, was I called Mario many times in my childhood? Yes. Am I used to it? Yes. Can I say that accent where it's it's me? Oh, yes, mamma mia, blah, blah, blah. That's a Sicilian accent. That ain't the rest of us. So keep that in mind.
Nice. That would be like somebody doing an American accent and doing a Deep South, kind of thing. And it's that's not all of us, but yeah, that's
exactly.
That's regional.
Me.
Yeah.
So, whenever you're with your family and stuff, is the preferred language Italian? If it's just everybody hanging around, or?
Well, it's kind of like a mix. So, one of us will be in English, the other one will be in Italian, and then we'll switch, back. It's just kind of whatever we're feeling at the time, because we've been in Australia for so long. It's never just fully Italian or fully English.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah. But the way I learned English was by watching movies with subtitles. So I used to just sit and watch Bewitched, and then we'd put English subtitles on, and then I'd be able to. That's how my mum and I learnt English, and through reading Harry Potter, which my mum would translate above the above the lines, and then we'd be able to understand what was going on.
It's you and Wanda Maximoff. You both kind of learned about English the same way. That's really
One
sweet.
day I'll
what?
have a nervous
That's actually-
breakdown and pull everyone in. It's just it's just
Yeah.
a matter of time.
That's actually not that uncommon of a story I'm finding out of people learning English as their second language via the entertainment industry, like watching TV and movies and stuff like that, and like turning on subtitles, and like that is kind of a gateway. They don't, obviously, it's not the way to fully learn a language, but it's
Sure.
an interesting way that I'm surprised a lot of people is their
Sure.
introduction into English.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. I, despite having, watched Luca, I still don't really know Italian, so I don't know why it's taking me so long. But,
Hey, that's less of an excuse than my partner, who I've been with now for 4 years and still has maybe 5 words down his belt. So, like, I'm just saying, you're still on top of him.
Okay,
so.
good. All right, speaking of Luca, we're going to review that. We're also going to review The Hitman's Wife, Bodyguard, which also takes place in Italy for the majority of the time. And then in honor of both of them, we're going to do best ever movie set in Italy. So we'll take that on for our best ever challenge. And of course, we'll do some buried treasure as well. But let's kick it off by talking about Luca. Before we get into this, Alice, you remember how I was like, "Hey, why don't you move that mic closer to your mouth?" And now
Shall
it's
I move
like,
it further away?
yeah, either that or turn the volume down, or one of the two.
Oh yeah. Is that better?
Yes,
Or maybe
that
Okay.
is better. I think
Okay.
you're good. You're good. That's my bad. That's totally my bad.
Sorry, guys.
Found
Brand
the-
new fancy mic.
Just figuring it out.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. A coming-of-age story about one boy experiencing an unforgettable summer filled with gelato, pasta, and endless scooter rides. Luca shares these adventures with his newfound best friend, Alberto. But all the fun is threatened by a deeply held secret. They are sea monsters from another world just below the water's surface. Luca, Pixar. Guys, it's a Pixar movie.
What?
Yeah, I like those usually. What did you guys think?
That's the
this
most
is-
underrated statement. I like those movies. Usually.
Yeah, a little bit of an understatement. An understatement. I should mention Jacob Tremblay voices Luca, and Jack Dylan Grazer voices Alberto. And then Maya Rudolph and Jim Gaffigan as the parents on this one. And yeah, what did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Alice, you get to go first. What did you think?
Well, I watched it last night, so there is some recency bias, but I think I'm in the loved it. Just firmly in the loved it.
Andrew, what do you got?
I'm gonna go with liked it, close to really liked it, but just for now liked it.
I am on the low side of loved it. As is the case with most Pixar movies, it's going to be in the loved it somewhere. But yeah, this one's on the low side of loved it. I'm trying to think. I think a lot of it has to do probably with this is a little bit of a different kind of a movie that Pixar's doing here. And I think it kind of takes some getting used to as you're watching it. Alice, you seem to like it the most out of all of us. So why don't you start with some of your observations kind of watching this movie?
Yeah, well, immediately I was going to say that. I feel like the animation style, first of all, is completely different to anything that Pixar's done before. Like, it's a different style, but it also is very unique. I could immediately tell that this was the same guy that did the La Luna Pixar short, right? Because it was very similar in the style, in the tone, in the atmosphere. But after getting used to it, I think I kind of loved it. And adding to that, the amount of detail that went into the sound design of this movie was just like whenever they're underwater, I don't know if you guys also noticed, but their dialogue's like a little bit muffled. And then when they're above water, it's clear because it's like, obviously audio works differently underwater. And then when you have the the birds and the waves and the wind, I was just like, oh, I want to be there, like it was just everything about it. I was just loving the world and the way that it was presented to me.
Yeah. Andrew, do you have any opening thoughts kind of on Luca?
Yeah, our main protagonist, Luca, is somebody that I could have seen being me as a child, just from a different world. The one who is scared to take risks and, really find out what's exciting in life and stuff like that, just playing it safe, But as the movie progresses, it kind of was like, oh man, he is, obviously, metaphorically, you can find a lot of similarities, but I believe it or not, I did not grow up as a sea monster.
I was going to say, Andrew, do you have something you want to tell us?
Yes. I am scared of the ocean. I'll just say that. So scared to death of the ocean. But, it's a fascinating story placed in a very unique environment. And that's, not even on top of the beautiful Italian old. I don't know if they specifically say like what year this takes place in, like what time era.
I don't think so, but
I don't think so.
No, I just assumed it was like 50s.
The 50s or 60s. Yeah, that's what I was going for too. Maybe it was just, a small, coastal village that was forgotten in time, for all I know. But as they move around this town, it just, you want to know more. And I think in this, I don't mean to trudge into a negative immediately, but I wanted to know more about the sea life as opposed to the small Italian village life. But I found the small village gorgeous, and I loved everything about it.
Yeah. I share many of those thoughts. I think where I will transition us into is probably my favorite thing about the movie is not a surprise, guys, but is the themes, the message. There's this beautiful metaphor. I'm just gonna say a coming out metaphor. And as with many of like the X-Men movies, those kind of things kind of plays in the same area where there's a secret, it's hidden, you're afraid if you let people know about it that they're going to judge you, look at you differently, think you're strange, think you're weird. And there's just, it's really specifically beautiful in a lot of the ways it handles that. There's a lot of the I don't want to give away the way this movie ends or kind of resolves what it's doing, but I found it really meaningful. And of course Pixar is great at that. Like they really do think through their stories and kind of what they mean and kind of what they feel like. And I don't even think this is one where people would accuse me of stretching to see this. I really think it's forgive the pun. It's not as under the surface as, some other metaphors might be. This one is right there to see. So I really, really appreciated that part of the film and kind of what it was doing, and just the way to say, when you feel like you have to hide a part of yourself, it really can impact the way you interact in the world, the way you build friendships, have relationships, the way you understand the people around you. And we should all strive to be the kind of people that would never want someone to hide part of who they are from us. And that's, I just found that really beautiful. I found that really beautiful and really affecting. So
yeah, and actually, I read after the movie that the story is based around a real friendship that the director had as a child.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, I assume that he's not a sea monster as well, but like the friend's name, Alberto, was the name of his friend's name. And then he just called the main character Luca because he thought it might have been a bit much to call it his first name. But yeah, that was just, I could tell that these were experiences that had been lived. And then, all these different elements, because as someone, obviously who's been in Italy a lot, there are so many different details throughout the town that I can immediately recognize as those are things that are throughout all of Italy. Like the way that the kind of I don't know how you call it, the plaques throughout with the little images, and the way that the food is, like all the food carts, the etching on the walls and the elements of the town. Like, it's just honestly brought me back. Like, you can tell that there was a lot of love and a lot of care that went into the assembly of this world. And yeah, so I really appreciated that.
Yeah. Yeah. Andrew, what are the thoughts you got? Feel free to take us in whatever direction you want.
Yeah, that was actually a really good segue with the Alberto character, because I think that the Alberto friendship is probably one of the most fascinating and thought-provoking parts of the entire movie, to the point where I was having theories in my head about who this character was, because there's a lot of mystery surrounding Alberto. And not to get into spoilers or anything, because it's not a spoiler, but I had some like Tyler Durden questions in my head. I'm like, is this really?
Sure.
Like, I was like, is he really, there? And, stuff like that. And it got to the point where, those issues were, like those questions were resolved. But for a while, I was like, is this really just his inner self? And maybe that's kind of what the movie is, saying in a way, even though he's a real person, but he can also represent the inner questions that Luca is going through, and the desire to explore and, be spontaneous and stuff like that. I do think that they could have, no, I take that back. I think that they handled that character well enough to where it's just that maybe it's the fact that I like the characters' relationships so much that I just wanted more. Like, it's I don't even know if we've said this. Like, it's only an hour and a half movie. Like, which is surprisingly short for what Pixar has been doing lately.
Yeah. What everybody has been doing lately. It seems like every movie we review is 2 hours and 15 minutes long these days. Just seems like kind of the accepted thing. It's kind of nice. It was a nice, quick, breezy story, yet fully realized. I didn't feel like they cited any of the characters or the environment. It was kind of a story that knew where it was going, and it went there. And that's appreciated. I enjoyed that quite a bit. If I'm going to slip into any kind of negatives, I already mentioned there's a little bit of a hurdle because this is so different than what we're used to from Pixar. And I don't just mean that animation-wise. The way this movie feels, it feels different than most Pixar movies in what the characters are doing. That is not a bad thing. And so what I'm trying to do is wrestle through, different is bad to, I need to kind of give myself more time to, absorb what's going. It's almost like Shakespeare. When you watch Shakespeare, and it's like it takes the first 30 minutes before you're like, oh, okay, these people are actually speaking English.
There's an acclimation period.
There was a little bit of an acclimation period for me in this movie, and so I only say that to acknowledge that is not the movie's fault. That is not something wrong with the movie, but it did impact kind of my distraction level or my ability to kind of sink into the world. The other thing that did that, and again, movies have the freedom to do these kind of things and just for us to suspend our disbelief. But the way this movie handled the in-water to out-of-water transition was so inconsistent and so mind-boggling that it did distract me. And if you want me to suspend my disbelief, that's fine, but try to make it a little less contradictory. They're just when the movie needs them to have to be dry, they all of a sudden have to be dry, but then other times they just jump out of the water and all of a sudden they're dry. You know what I mean? Like, the movie is very inconsistent about the rules of its world, and that's going to distract me. So that's probably my main negative, even though it's not really a huge one. So,
and I mean it takes longer than just like wiping your face to be dry,
Right,
like they don't use like a towel or anything. They just kind of like hit themselves on the face a little bit and they're dry, and I'm just like,
right,
I know.
Well,
I know from experience that it requires more than that to be dry.
And sometimes in the movie, it requires more of them than that to be dry. You know, they're like,
Yeah.
you could even just take two very specific examples. When they are trying not to get found out and they're in a boat and they get splashed, all of a sudden they have to be under a towel for 3 minutes before they can show themselves. But when they're in the water, just leaping out of the water, they're, completely dry the second they leap out of water. Like, it's just that inconsistent. And again, it doesn't ruin the movie, but it just, I can only suspend my disbelief so much and I get distracted, and I'm sorry. It's my fault, Pixar.
I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Did this movie make you hungry?
I wanted the pasta.
Yeah. Whenever her one-armed Don Fry looked like Dad, would make that pasta and put it down, I'm like, oh, I want that pasta so bad.
Yeah. Which I actually found interesting because I was waiting for the pizza. You know what I mean? Like, every Italian movie ever has a moment with pizza, because that's what we are. We are completely just people made up of pizza and pasta. But for once, they went down not even like spaghetti and meatballs, which, by the way, is a New York thing. It's not an Italian thing. Just want to put that out there. They went like down a pesto and like a different kind of pasta direction, which I really appreciated.
Seafood pasta.
Which looked so good.
It really did. It really,
the whole
really
movie
did.
looks great. The movie is just gorgeous. It really is beautiful. Even as the animation is a little bit more rounded, a little bit more almost claymation. It almost has a little bit more of a claymation look to it. But it's still beautiful. The scenery's gorgeous. The water's gorgeous. It made me want to be to go to Italy. I've never been. I would be excited to check out those
pretty
views.
Good.
Never been to
Can
Europe.
recommend. Well, can recommend. One negative I have, which is kind of my main one, and again, it's not like huge, like in terms of normal movies, right? Like, this is just on a Pixar level. So I will say that every time they speak Italian, it's accurate, which is very rare. The accents most of the time are accurate, like in terms of when they actually say the words in Italian. You can tell that most of the actors that were cast are Italian in some way, shape, or form. However, the thing that annoyed me was the fact that, well, at first I was a bit about the fact that everyone on land had an accent, and then everyone below the land, while they have Italian names and, clearly a part of that world, they all had American accents. But I was like, that's fine. Maybe it's just like a separation of worlds sort of thing, right? But then their friend, the female friend, Julia, her accent's American, but she's grown up above the surface because she's human. She's been above the surface the whole time. So why, and her dad has an Italian accent. Everyone around her has an Italian accent. Why does she have an American accent? So that really annoyed me, because I was just like, why can't everyone just have an Italian accent? Or like, I'd be fine if just the sea monsters had the American, but her having an American accent was really like distracting for me, because I was just like,
I get that.
why? Because she was Italian, because she kept like throwing in random words throughout her language, but it was just like they didn't want to go that extra step. So,
Even the cat's accent was Italian.
Love the cat. That
Oh
was
man,
so
the
good.
cat looking like the dad is like the funniest thing. Have we even mentioned how funny this movie is?
No, we haven't. We should.
No.
We should.
Yeah, this is a funny movie. There were plenty of laughs I had in this movie. I'll throw out my big negative, and it's really what's keeping me from loving the movie, is this movie, like Aaron says, does such a great job with its themes and metaphors along, like coming out or holding a secret within, that you're scared of how everybody will react. I think that the ending of this movie ties too quick of a bow on, how the how everything is resolved. I'm like, oh, really? That quickly? Okay. It was kind of jarring, and it kind of, I don't want to, ruined isn't the right word, but I think it rushed, and it was a missed opportunity, I guess you could say, for how things, like, okay, this is how it could happen, but I would have appreciated a more real world, reaction to these revelations. I'm really trying to dance around, the ending of this movie, but hopefully people who have seen the movie will understand what I'm saying.
I do understand what you're saying. I think this is not that movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like this movie was always going to end that way. Like I can't see the version of this movie that is more nuanced with its resolution, because I think this movie is, like we said, very, like, with its story, it's very straightforward. It's very, here's the secret, here's the bully, here's the competition, yay, we win, or whatever happens at the end. You know what I mean? Like there's, it's a very, it's almost allegorical in that way. It's almost like like an allegory that somebody would tell, where the story is set to teach a lesson even more than it is to reflect real life. So yeah, I would give, for me personally, I would give it a little bit of grace for that, but I do understand what you're saying, and I think you are right. The bows are tied very pretty and very tightly at the end, and I just think this was always going to be a bow kind of a movie.
Yeah.
Is my sense. Yeah.
I will also say, I feel like I know what you're talking about specifically, and I remember watching that and being like, that's how Italians would act, like,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, like that's kind of a very Italian way of having that attitude, where it's just but I don't want to go into too much detail, but yeah, like I just it is kind of accurate based on the personalities of communities like that, is what I'll say.
Okay.
Based on my experience.
Yeah,
So-
I guess I am coming at it from an American where our second language is confrontation. So
it's a fair point. That is a fair point. All right. Anybody have one last thing? Anything else you guys want to talk about before we kind of move on with the show? For Luca,
there is
final
a post-credit scene.
Yep.
yes, there is indeed.
One thing I'll say is that the villain, if you will, looked so I was a bit distracted throughout the whole movie because the villain, the way they designed him, looks exactly like the fiance of one of the friends I was watching it with. And so, especially in the profile. And so we were just like, oh my God, it's Lawrence. And then we the whole time we'd be like, Lawrence, why are you being so bad? Like, it was just a bit distracting. So that was a fun sort of thing. Like, and then we texted him that and he goes, that's racist. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
And then he said, it's the nose, isn't it?
I thought that the bully looked a lot like a younger version of the teacher in Incredibles, the one who's like, coincidence? I think not. With the
Maybe that's what
mustache
he
that hasn't
grew up
fully
to
grown
be.
in yet or anything like that. He hasn't balded yet, but it looks exactly like him.
I was going to say it could be the same person, but Incredibles is also kind of set in that same era, actually, right? Like kind of that
Yeah,
same,
it has that
like,
50s golden age of comics kind of, vibe to it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Maybe it's his dad.
Yeah, could be. My one last thing would be, if you have not seen La Luna, the Pixar short La Luna, seek it out. It's on Disney Plus. All the Pixar shorts are on Disney Plus. Check out La Luna. It is one of my favorite Pixar shorts. It's very beautifully realized and told, and yeah, you'll get it. Especially if you loved the style of Luca. As Alice mentioned, it's very, very similar.
La Luna?
La Luna is
I
the
will
name of
check
the
it
short.
out.
La Luna, and pay attention to how the tools they use match their appearance. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's just one of my favorite things about that short. All right, let's move on, shall we?
Yes.
Let's talk about the Hitman Wife's Bodyguard. The world's most lethal odd couple, bodyguard Michael Bryce and hitman Darius Kincaid, are back on another life-threatening mission. Still unlicensed and under scrutiny, Bryce is forced into action by Darius's even more volatile wife, the infamous international con artist Sonia Kincaid. Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, Salma Hayek's back as Sonia Kincaid, Ryan Reynolds, of course, as Michael Bryce, and Samuel L. Jackson as Darius Kincaid. And we add Antonio Banderas into this story as the big villain, and several other people showing up as well, including those that I will not spoil for you. There are some fun little casting moments in this. I always find it interesting because it's easily Googleable. If you Google the cast of the movie,
And
you're
they're
going to
on
see
they're on the cover art too, so
Are they?
Yeah.
Ah.
And I think they're in a couple of
then
trailers.
Why is the movie like this? Why does the movie play it like that? I don't understand.
For people like you, Aaron, who
understand what
didn't
Hollywood's
know.
doing.
Exactly.
But why are they ruining that experience for everybody else? I
Yeah.
don't understand. I don't get it. Anyway, sorry. Little bit of spoiler frustration there. So yeah, there's somebody in this movie that I thought it was really fun the way they were revealed, but apparently they're on the poster and in the trailer as well. But not on this poster, though. Not on the one we're using on our show. Anyhow, what did you guys think of Hitman's wife's Bodyguard? Andrew, first. Like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
High side of okay.
High side of okay.
Yeah.
Alice, what do you think?
So when I started watching this movie, I was ready to really like it. And then as I was watching it, I went down to liked it. And then it continued and I went down to it's okay. And I think I've landed on bordering didn't like it and low side of it's okay.
Boy, did I have a similar experience to that. Yeah, I'm going to go in the high side of didn't liked it. I didn't like this movie. Yeah, so I don't get to start. I think Andrew actually gets to start because he liked it the most. Tell us some good things, man. What did you like?
It's interesting because with the first movie, Hitman's Bodyguard, is that I thought that the chemistry between Ryan and Sam was like the thing that stole the movie. It was just really funny. Mm-hmm. In this movie, I think the best part of this movie is Salma Hayek. I think she's hilarious in this movie with how crazy she is, because it was, I guess, fresh, to see her being just wanting to be, like, pretending to be normal, and everything that she does, she thinks is what a normal person would do, but is totally insane. I think that's because I think with Sam Jackson's character, he knows, what he does is messed up, and Ryan Reynolds is just trying to, survive with these two. But I think that Salma Hayek was the most interesting person on the screen. Yeah, I think that she stole the movie.
That's an interesting take. I didn't have that same feeling. However, when you're talking about it, I kind of agree with you. I think that's what the movie's trying to do. They're trying to put her a little more, obviously in the poster we're looking at, she's front and center. They're trying to foreground her in this movie so that it feels fresh from the first movie. I do think that's an intentional thing they're doing. And she is good. And just the fact that she fits in that triangle well, I think is success. Because Ryan Reynolds and Sam Jackson, you're right, are so good together, both in the first one and in this one, that's not a guarantee that, because she was just kind of a side part of that first movie. Yeah. And so you do run the risk of when you put her forward like that, you do run the risk of, of it not working. But I think for the most part, it still works. I think the three of them still are really good together. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the movie is that chemistry. Continues to be from the first one as well. What about you, Alice? What are some of your thoughts?
Well, I will say, I understand kind of where you guys are coming from with Salma. It definitely feels like she's having a lot of fun. Like she's just kind of gone insane and they're kind of letting her. I don't know why. I kind of felt like Samuel Jackson phoned it in a little bit in this movie, but then Ryan Reynolds, he's still trying. You can see it with he's holding the whole movie on his shoulders, which I will say, again, I have some bias towards Ryan Reynolds because he's my soulmate. So
sure. It's going to happen. I totally get it.
Yeah,
it might be mine as well. I don't know.
Well, Antonio Banderas is mine, so.
Okay. There you go. But because we're born on the same day, and so there's a lot of elements. Yeah, it's just my partner and Blake Lively understand that it's just a matter of time. But besides that, he's always just so charismatic, and he's just always doing such a great job. But there's just is it too early to go into negatives? Because
do it. Go for it.
Okay, first of all, as someone who's Italian, let me let you in on a little secret. saying that Florence and Tuscany are different places is like saying that Los Angeles and California are different places, right? Because Florence is the capital of Tuscany. Tuscany's a region. They're not different places. So that whole bit in the movie, I was just like wanting to I was at a cinema, so I couldn't do that. But I wanted to scream at the screen because I'm just like, that's some basic research. That is a 2 seconds on Google thing that they didn't do.
Right.
So I had to get that out of the way. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. Besides that, I will say with Salma Hayek's character, like, I can tell that she's having fun, but I don't know, for me, just got a bit too much at times. Like, it felt like her entire character could be summed up with swearing, boobs, and wanting to be a mum. Like, that's her character in a nutshell. And it just felt like that at times when they didn't quite have a joke for her to land on, she just started swearing a lot. And I was just kind of like, oh gosh, all right, next, please. So yeah, that was my thoughts towards her in particular.
Yeah. I think, though, that is this movie, though, right? Like, that is, this movie is, I always go back to, not trying to hold a movie accountable for something it's not trying to do. And this movie is not trying to contend for Oscars, right? Like, this movie is trying to make you laugh, trying to show you some things you haven't seen before. And it's trying to be over the top. That doesn't mean your criticism isn't valid. It just means I understand what the movie is trying to do with that character. I think in that way. I totally, for me, the negatives probably revolve much more around the fact that everything going on here in the story feels like nonsense to me. It all feels like an excuse just to have the three of them say funny lines, which it probably is. And again, but for me, come on, at least find some semblance of legitimate, story structure that's going to feel, secure. All the Antonio Banderas stuff felt forced to me, story-wise.
Antonio Banderas needs to stop being cast as somebody from a country he's not. Like in 13th Warrior, he's supposed to be Arabic in 13th Warrior, and in here he's supposed to be Greek. And I'm like, why? He has one of the most distinct accents of any actor ever. You can't pass him off as somebody that...
Okay, so the entire movie, I was waiting for it to be... I genuinely thought, and I can say this because it's not what happened, so it's not a spoiler. I genuinely thought it was going to be a whole thing where, like, Antonio Banderas had been a kid in Spain and had been abandoned in Greece, and then, like, him and Salma were, like, siblings or something, and then they got separated because they both have quite distinct Spanish accents. And then I thought that was going to be like a whole thing, because I'm like, he's clearly not Greek, right? Like, everything about him screams like Spanish, right? People know I'm not crazy. But then it didn't happen. He was just meant to be Greek, and I'm just there like, no, come on.
no, sorry,
you can
not
do better.
allowed.
Try again.
Not allowed. Yeah.
I don't think that the writers of this movie understood what tungsten carbide is. I don't think that they... Okay. I mean, I know that's a very specific thing, but I could cut tungsten carbide with stuff in my garage. I just want to get that out there because, like, as they were saying, I'm like, it's not magic. It's a hard metal, but it's... So, it's stuff like that. This is something that carries over from the first movie, and it was one of the detriments of the first movie. Don't get me wrong, I like the first movie, but their lack of fleshing out the villain in the first movie carries over into this one because they're so interested in playing the hits of Ryan Reynolds and Sam Jackson together. They're so interested in that they kind of just hem-haw what the villain is trying to do, to where I'm like, yeah, they're really going about this in a very overcomplicated way. Which, at the end of the day, that's what the movie has to be about. It has to be about them coming together to stop something. And if you can't buy into what the villain's trying to do, then it's it kind of dilutes the movie, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I will also say, as much as I loved the what was to me surprise cameo in this movie, as much as I enjoyed the way it was presented, that whole plot line is dumb. Like it is trying to play on something that has like depth to it, and just it is it's just so shallow and so ridiculous, and so it doesn't make any sense. The way that character handles some of the choices they make early, then you find out something about them, and then all of a sudden it's just like, I just, that for as much as I enjoyed seeing that person in this movie, I really didn't like that character. Maybe my least favorite character in the movie. So
yeah. I mean, you could almost sum that up. The whole movie could be summed up with, that was dumb. Like, you know, like I think, and honestly, the more I thought about it, because I really liked the first movie. Like I had such a good time watching the first movie. And the thing that's missing, first of all, is I think what you were saying, Andrew, in that the villain's whole motivation, all of that makes zero sense, right? And then what else it's missing that the first movie had was the storyline made sense. Like the plot, how they got from, Ryan Reynolds meeting Samuel Jackson to him having to be the bodyguard to like where they needed to go. It had a clear sort of through line, while this was just, honestly, it just kind of at times felt like an epic movie. You know what I mean? Like so much of it just felt like a scary movie where it has just been thrown together based on what was happening on set that day. None of the motivations made sense. And can I also just like say, low key, the title doesn't really make sense. Like when you actually consider the plot of the movie. So it just seems that not a lot of thought was put into the whole thing, including post-production, because it has some of the worst ADRing and sound mixing I've seen in a long time. And it really bothered me throughout the whole film. So yeah.
I'm gonna rewind my comments just a little bit because I am trying to stop saying dumb and start saying silly. Because there is like, just because you do something that is silly doesn't mean you don't do it with intelligence. And I'm not saying this movie is smart. I'm just saying if you're being silly on purpose, that can be, So I don't want to, rip on the movie for its intelligence. What I want to do is say it is not being a serious attempt at something. It is being very, very silly. Which can be okay, and in fact the silliness of the first one is part of the thing that a lot of us enjoyed about it. Let's kind of head in. Do you guys have any other big things you want to talk about before we head to our kind of one more thing? My one more thing is this. This is how I would say it. The Hitman's Bodyguard, the original movie, was probably about a C+ that was made into a B+ because of Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson's chemistry and comedy. This movie is probably a D- that's made into a C- because of their the chemistry of these people. So I think just the starting, neither of them were great movies to begin with, but they do have this wonderful cast that is really fun together. And this one just started, I think, from a much harder, more difficult place, and just doesn't kind of clear those hurdles.
It's crazy how much chemistry can impact your enjoyment of a movie.
Sure.
Like I'm thinking of great movies that probably wouldn't have been as good if it wasn't for the cast. Like, do you think Star Trek, the new ones, would have been good if it wasn't for how good the chemistry was between that entire cast? It's
hard to say, right? Because the casting in that movie is so perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it is here too, besides Antonio Banderas as a Greek. I think my one last thing is there is a mid-credit scene, and there is a super quick little post-credit thing that actually got a good chuckle out of me. So
okay, there you go.
Yeah, I guess my one more thing is like, I've said a lot of stuff about that I didn't like about the movie, but I didn't not enjoy it. There were some moments where I genuinely had some proper laughs come out of me. I'm thinking particular, there's a moment with a laundry bin and that gets pushed over, and that I actually just like laughed out loud. So I did not enjoy it, and I think a lot of it has to do with the chemistry. But I think you have to know what kind of movie you're going in for, and it's silly. It's very silly.
Very, very silly.
I would say first one's way better, but if you have to watch this, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Reynolds can make anything fun to watch. Like his delivery. Since I fell in love with The Man and Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, I have been a Ryan Reynolds fan. And
what about Origins Wolverine?
He's one of the best parts of that movie.
He is so handcuffed in that movie, and he still finds a way to be one of the best parts of the movie.
And if he doesn't find a good way to be a good part in that movie, he'll make another movie.
Right, he'll redeem it with another movie.
He'll redo it and make it better, and use it as gags.
Yes. Let's talk about Patreon. Thank you to our Sif Pop members. You guys are awesome. We have a bonus show that we have recorded for you. It is in your Sif Pop member podcast feed. By the way, that podcast feed includes all the main episodes with no ads, as well as all the bonus episodes. And that's $5 a month over at patreon.com/SifPop. And it keeps this thing going. So thank you for doing that. The one we recorded this week was about our kind of our Pixar rankings. We talked about, with Luca in mind, kind of where things are falling for us right now as far as the 24 Pixar movies. 24. If you could somehow watch each Pixar movie within an hour, you would get them into a day. But you can't. I mean, I suppose you probably could. Anyhow, go to patreon.com/SifPop if you are interested in checking all that stuff out. Lots of different perks at different levels. And thank you. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate you. All right, let's move on to the best ever challenge. We are doing best ever Italy movies that are set for the most part in Italy. I don't think I stretched this too much with any of my choices. Most of these are truly set in Italy. We'll go number 5 to number 1. Andrew, why don't you kick us off this time? What's your number 5 movie set in Italy?
Let's see when this one came out. Okay, this is a 2017 movie, and I might get trumped for all I know. I'm going to go with Call Me By Your Name.
Not trumped by me.
All right. For a movie that I was convinced was going to be a Hallmark movie, just going solely off, the premise of it,
This is not a Hallmark movie.
No, it's not a Hallmark movie. But, you hear the premise, and you're like, okay, yeah, I could see this on the Hallmark network or something like that. This movie is so good. The performances by Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet are amazing. The chemistry / antithesis initially between the two of them is really good. The Sufjan Stevens score for this movie and the soundtrack is just so good. And I think out of a lot of the movies you're going to hear on my list, I think that this one is the most makes me want to explore, Italy. And when I say Italy, I don't mean like Rome or any of the big, major cities. It's it's so comfortable, I guess you could say, with the little cities they go to, just quiet and cozy and comfortable. And yeah, it's a great movie. I love it.
Nice. I have complicated feelings on this movie. Now even more complicated with whatever's going on with Armie Hammer. I have no idea. No comment, because I really don't know. But he's just a tasty boy. There's a little bit of, I don't know. Let's just say my feelings are complicated. My feelings are complicated on this movie. All right, number 5 for you, Alice. What do you got?
I have the seminal classic that is the Lizzie McGuire movie. That movie is so important to girls my age, boys my age, anyone my age, because the quotes that have come out of that movie, I could probably tell you every single second because of the amount of times I watched it. There's quotes like "Sing to me, Paolo" that everyone says, and the reason this is so good is, first of all, obviously you have the Lizzie McGuire show that was successful. People still watch it today. They almost did the remake, but damn you, Disney, you had to go and ruin it. But it was so important. I think I've watched it 4 or 5 times throughout my life. And then the movie, you know, I know they did it a few times where they took a show and then made a movie, but this was one of the movies that was actually it made sense. It was a great continuation of the story. The characters were all there. And it was just a really nice sort of like coming of age, like comedy of errors sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Plus it was set in Italy. Now however, I will say this is one of those movies where the people who are supposed to be Italian, when they speak Italian, like Paolo, it is some of the most horrendous speaking of my language that I've ever heard, where I'm like, that is an American boy who might like have Italian in his bloodline somewhere, but he has never spoken a word in his entire life.
Yeah.
But it is just so fun, and everything about it just hits me right in the nostalgia. So yeah, love it.
Nice.
I have a huge crush on Hilary Duff. I always have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my contribution because I haven't seen the movie. So all I can say is, Hilary Duff's in it, so I'm sure it's great. Aaron, what you got?
Well, I have always had a huge crush on Robert Sean Leonard. So let's talk about Much Ado About Nothing. I love this movie. I think there's nostalgia to it. You know, I think it came out like right around when I graduated from high school. Like I think this was early 90s, 93, somewhere in that range. And just, you know, Denzel, Keanu, Michael Keaton, Robert Sean Leonard, Emma Thompson, Kenneth Branagh. And of course, Kenneth Branagh is doing the Shakespeare thing that he loves so much. And man, I love the story. I love the way it's told here. It's so much fun. Almost everybody is nailing their roles here. Keanu is a little out of his elements at times. But you know, it's good times. It's good times.
He's trying.
He's trying. If you haven't seen it, high recommend.
Oh, bless.
Much Ado About Nothing. So yeah, that's my number 5. What do you got at number 4, Andrew?
Number 4, this is where I have Spider-Man Far From Home. I think
choice.
enough of this movie takes place in Italy for it to count.
I agree. No, I totally agree. I think this is I had it in my honorable mentions. So yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
This is one of the unfortunate incidents of reading comics my whole life. I knew the Mysterio character and I knew where that was going to go, but I could see how that twist, I guess you could say, being very surprising for somebody who is not familiar with who he is and what he does. On top of that, I love how Spider-Man / Peter Parker in this wants to be a kid so bad. And you get to see him have his crush on MJ and how, you know, he wants to give her the Black Dahlia necklace and just have like a really cute and adorable, you know, moment with her, but it's, you know, being inundated by, you know, possibly creatures from other worlds attacking all of Europe.
Just that little thing. Yeah.
I love this movie. It's really good. I will say I think that Spider-Man Homecoming is better, but that's not to take away from.
They're both great.
Yeah.
The Marvel, the MCU Spider-Man movies are all so good. They're just doing so great with those. Yeah. No.
Plus, what a you know, you might have known the Mysterio twist, but you probably didn't know the big reveal-ish twist at the end there, like in that post-credit scene.
No idea. Right. And Aaron and I actually talked about this. How we were talking about how that character, we can spoil it, but how the Sam Jackson character was acting a little bit off during the movie, and we were talking like, man, I don't think that Sam Jackson was, you know, fully in on this. And then for that reveal to come, I'm like, oh, it all makes so much sense.
It makes you acting.
It makes you appreciate how good Sam Jackson actually was for him to be kind of close to that character. You're like, he's kind of Nick Fury. I guess, is he phoning it in? And then at the end, you're like, oh my gosh, he is amazing. So
I was speaking more about the J. Jonah Jameson and the whole like Peter Parker unmasked thing.
Yeah, that part is banana hammocks, which I'm bringing that back here, and I'm never going to let that die.
I just don't understand why it means something's crazy. That's all. I just,
bananas is crazy. Something that's banana hammocks is beyond insanity.
All right, fair enough. So. There you go.
Yeah.
Let's see. So does that mean we're to
this
Alice's
would be
number 4?
Alice's number 4, right?
What do you got?
Okay, I might get trumped, but the two popes.
Yeah. I'll trump you on
yeah.
that. Trump you on
Okay.
that.
Sorry.
Let's
Aaron?
see. My number 4 is Mission Impossible 3, which takes place.
Is
for
this
a-
the one with
a
Philip
majority of
Seymour
it in
Hoffman?
Italy. This is the one with Philip Seymour
Okay.
Hoffman. I think the Philip Seymour Hoffman scene in the plane may be the best Mission Impossible scene in all the. I just think their dialogue and the way they talk to each other and his performance in that, it's so good that
Well,
it
it's
maybe
Hoffman.
even elevates this movie higher than it should be in my mind, just because I remember that moment and just things like that. But this is where, I mean, it's not too exaggerated to say this movie saved the franchise, right? Because MI2 was, people didn't
Rough.
quite like it as much. It was rough. And so for JJ to kind of come in and deliver something that kind of got the fun and that feel, and now it's just, it's the best action franchise going. So,
Trying to see.
yeah.
Was it? It's not Ghost Pro. 2006. So there was a 6-year gap between Mission Impossible 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people had just forgotten that franchise.
Yeah, totally.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, I say that, but there's also there's only a 4-year gap between the first movie and the second one. So I take that back.
Yeah. All right, let's go with number 3s. What do you got, Andrew?
Number 3, what do I have? Okay, this is where I have 2 popes. So
Me too.
okay,
So let's go ahead and talk about it.
yeah, let's do it.
So Alice had it at number 4, and we both had it at number 3.
Yeah. This is a movie that all comes down to how good your performances are, because that's all this movie is. This movie is a 2-hour conversation between 2 characters, pretty much. And if you can't buy A, the chemistry, and 2, the believability of what is potentially a real historical event. I don't know if this is ever confirmed that, this, interaction actually took place between these 2 popes. But it's fascinating. Oh, it's fascinating. And this is coming from somebody who is, a former Christian, so the religious aspect probably doesn't even hit as hard for me as it would for others. Sure. But, there's, if not religious implications, there's even political implications that are still fascinating to, what is going on, because this is something that's never happened before. The Pope has never retired.
Right. Yeah. No, you're not wrong. Yeah, I love this movie. It is the way that it handles the distinction between, the classical conservative idea of the church and the idea of being open to a church that changes and evolves and understands its culture and those kind of things. It's a really fascinating conversation. Many, I'm sure, religions have the same conversation, whether it be Christianity, Catholic Christianity, whether it be any other faith. There's this moment of understanding the things I believe are personal to me, but they are something that everybody's going to have different views on and different opinions on, and the ability to have those conversations is just, man, the way it's handled in this movie is so beautiful. And there's many examples in this movie of how to have conversations, how to have disagreements. Boy, couldn't we learn, from that? Couldn't that be a positive thing for us all to be able to have conversations and disagreements in the way that these 2 do? So yeah, I loved it.
Also, you have 2 Welsh actors, one playing an Austrian and the other playing an Argentinian.
An Argentinian,
Yeah. No, I agree with both of you, because I'm similar to Andrew in that. So I am proper Roman Catholic, baptized in Italy and all of that. But I'm lapsed and have since lapsed, as has my mum. And so I have that distant connection, but I've definitely not that personal connection anymore. And so going in, I will admit I had a bit of prejudice, because I was just like, okay, here we go. What's this going to be? And it just ended up being a really nice exploration of religion and like a discussion of belief and what it means to believe, like how your belief doesn't cancel out my belief and vice versa.
Right.
And, you know, again, what you were saying, Aaron, where it's like the ability to disagree and to have different perspectives, but still be, you know, friends, still be, have the ability to coalesce and be together. It's just so nice. And then the acting and the dialogue in the script is just like, I can't even say anything. It's just amazing. So I wouldn't have thought that me watching two old men speaking for 2 hours would have kept me, you know, completely wrapped for that amount of time. And yet if anything, I was just like, oh, I kind of want to watch it again now, you know?
Yeah.
The evolution.
Andrew and I hope that every week. We're just like, I just hope they'll watch two old men talking every week, and it'll keep their attention. That's just what we hope. So
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you that's pretty much what Sif Pop is.
that's right. That's right. Okay, so Alice, you're number 3, right?
Okay, mine's Gladiator.
That's gonna get
Trump.
trumped.
Yeah.
Damn.
Major
let's go to our number 2s then, since my number 3 was the Two Popes. Andrew, what did you have at number 2?
Well, this is why I have The Godfather. I think enough of The Godfather takes place in Italy. Godfather 2, not so much. But I think that Godfather, I have it at number 2. But is this an overrated?
My top 5, so you know.
Is this an overrated movie?
Yes. I have no qualm saying yes. None at all. Godfather is overrated. Put it on the internet. That's my hot take. Cancel me.
No, hey, I said it first.
We just see a laser start to sit on Aaron's forehead.
I get it. I totally get it. And we all know I have a little bit of anti-gangster movie bias in me that comes out. So there is that part of it for me as well. I'm not saying this is not one of the greatest movies ever made. What I'm saying is that it's kind of elevated itself to a place even above, I think, that, you know, many people think it is. So yeah, I think slightly. Let's just say it's slightly overrated.
It's elevated to a point where criticism isn't allowed, I think.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way.
Yeah, you're not allowed to say anything bad about it. Having said that,
it's your number 2.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Brando is stellar. Pacino is stellar. Khan is stellar. I mean, it's a movie that I think elevated what it meant to be a movie. I guess is the best way to say it, because movies since then, the caliber has been raised, and this is the movie I think that really did it. It's a brilliant movie, and that's why I have it on my number 2. But it's one of those movies where I think we need to eventually, and if not now, sometime have a conversation like, is this movie flawed? And I think yes, it is. It's a flawed movie, and why am I ragging on it? It's my number 2.
Yeah, it's very weird, Andrew. It's very weird to bring it up as your number 2 in your best ever challenge and be like, is this movie terrible?
I'm not saying it's terrible, but we were having that conversation.
I know.
But I love this movie, but whenever we talk about this movie, there's something in the back of my mind going, it's not the best movie ever made.
Yeah.
Well, for some people it is.
I was going to say, for some people, there's definitely, I feel like this is one of those defaults where it's like when people find out that you're into movies and they ask you, what's your favorite movie? They expect like this,
The Godfather,
Citizen Kane, you know, like Godfather, Citizen Kane, like they expect one of these movies to fall out of your mouth. And like, I remember watching it and I enjoyed it. Yep. It is not on my list. That's all you need to know.
I think that people feel pressured to love this movie if they haven't seen it, and then they watch it. They're like, "Oh, yeah." Not that's not to say that people who watch it for the first time are blown away by it.
Many people who genuinely, with all of their heart, think this is the best movie ever made. Like that is not. Yeah, and you're probably right. There are some that feel the pressure to put it in their, you know, best movies, even though maybe that might be true, but that could be said for a lot of movies. That could be said for my favorite movie of all time. Singing in the Rain is one of those movies that
we're going to be talking about it. Not best ever
movies.
challenge, obviously, but
right. Yeah.
I mean, hey, Godfather is in my top 100 movies of all time. So
right. So there you go. Yeah. So yeah, I get,
it's just at the back end.
I get what you're saying. It was just a weird little thing. It was just like, yeah. Hey, let's talk about the best ever movies. Is this movie overrated, guys? Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying.
That's what I do. I ruin best ever challenges. That's what I'm here for. That's what I get paid the big bucks to do.
What is your number 2, Alice?
Roman Holiday.
Oh, nice. It's a good choice. I have my honorable mentions.
Okay, good. I'm glad I finally get to talk about my movie and its rank again. So yeah, I'm a huge Audrey Hepburn stan. Like I have watched all of her movies. She's just one of the most stunning and talented people ever to have existed. Plus, then she like spent the rest of her life, being like an amazing good person and like working for charity and stuff. But besides all that, this is Roman Holiday. It won her the Oscar, and it is just so nice. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just want to watch a movie that's nice. It's got really like beautiful costumes, stunning settings, and the story is just a nice romance, but it's like elevated because everything about it is such good quality. Gregory Peck's on his form, Audrey Hepburn's on his form, and I just enjoy it every time I watch it. It just brings me right back to, I mean, not that I lived in this era, but I feel like I brought back to this era.
Right.
And yeah, every time I have such a good time. So yeah.
Very nice. Roman Holiday.
Got a question.
2. Sure.
You said that you're an Audrey Hepburn stan. Did you mean fan, or is stan like the Eminem, song Stan, where you're such a fan that you're...
Yeah. Have you guys not heard of the term?
I've heard of stan. Have you never heard somebody stan something?
I have now. It's a thing.
It's a thing. It actually comes.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
How long has that song been out and I haven't ever heard that?
It's a recent thing, but it is based on the Eminem song, and it's basically like you're not just a fan; it's like an elevated version of a fan.
Okay.
You're a stan. I stan them. Yeah.
I stan them. Yeah, I stan that person.
I get it. I like it. I'm going to use it. It's in my vocab now.
Good.
Well, we're on to my number 2, and I stan Matt Damon. So I've got talented Mr. Ripley at my number 2.
Mentions.
I've never seen it.
You should. It's really really good.
It's on my list.
It's full of just this beautiful tension and suspense, and the performances are really... I actually don't know that I've seen Damon give a performance like this before or after. It's a very different performance for him, but he really, really nails it. And of course, you got Jude Law in there, and it's just it's really great. So
Jude Law's the best part of this movie for me.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of, Philip Seymour Hoffman making
it has been a hot minute since I've seen this movie. I think I saw it when it came out.
Tommy, how's the peeping? Tommy.
Oh, is that the movie that line's from?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's Philip Seymour Hoffman saying that one. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Blew my mind.
There you go. Let's see. So now we're to our number 1s. I think we know Andrew and I's number 1, but go ahead and say it, Andrew.
Gladiator.
There it is.
It's a goat movie. It's one of the goats. This out of all of the sword and sandal movies that I could think of, including some that are in my honorable mention, I think that this stands head and shoulders above the rest. Joaquin Phoenix is one of the greatest villains ever in this movie. The score in this movie is gorgeous. The song "Now We're Free" is like such a beautiful song. This movie is beyond brilliant. It's a spectacle. That's what this movie is. It's a spectacle.
Yeah, it's really powerful too. What you do today echoes in eternity. There's this real beautiful message about the importance of our life. Even though we are not eternal, that the things we do can be eternal, and the way we treat people can echo through generations and generations and generations. And I really love this movie. We both had it at number 1. Alice, you had it at number 3. Yeah, number 3. So say some things.
Oh, absolutely. I will. Having it at number 3 doesn't bring it down or anything like that. Like the movie is just, it has such an important role in the social consciousness of film. And again, the quotes that came out of this, that like, are you not entertained? And like, the music and the scenes, it's just a film where I always know I'm going to have a good time and I'm going to see something new from it. But also it's just really interesting, because you had the character or the actor that died halfway through filming and they had to superimpose him in. And considering that this is like a 2000s film, pretty good. Like it holds up pretty well. So everything about it is just really nice. It's very different. And it's probably Russell Crowe at his best still to this day, in my opinion. So
well, I mean, it was back-to-back years. He did this, and then he did A Beautiful Mind, and I'm like, what is this guy even doing? He shouldn't be able to make 2 movies in a row that are this good.
Yeah, exactly.
And the underappreciated Master and Commander, Far Side of the World.
I love that movie.
There as well.
I really do.
I think it's Russell Crowe just being his Crowiest. And I think what Alice means to say is she has this at number 3, but is it overrated? I think is what she was wanting to say.
This is one of those movies where people really feel pressured into liking.
All right. That's our number 1. What is your number 1, Alice?
This might be a little controversial, but my number 1 is Angels and Demons. I love this film.
Wow.
Good for you.
I would have never have seen this coming. I cannot wait. Please tell us about the amazingness that is A&D.
Okay, so I am always a fan of any sort of like code breaking, conspiracy film. I enjoyed Da Vinci Code, but this is just so much better. Tom Hanks is so good. And then they're running around, the Vatican City and trying to solve everything before they run out of time. But Ewan McGregor is so good in this movie. Like he steals the movie. And I feel like it's been enough years that I can spoil it. I'm sure maybe some people saw it coming, but when first time I saw it, I did not see him being the villain coming. And then there's the scene where he, kills himself, and it's just so affecting to me. I remember it was in my brain. It was ironically seared into my brain, and I couldn't stop thinking about it because it's so dramatic and just, it's so heart pumping and adrenaline rushing. And I don't know why, it just hits me in exactly the right spot. Every time I'm just like, it's so thrilling. What's going to happen? It's the Illuminati, but it's not the Illuminati. And
nice.
I love it so much. And I know that many people consider it to not be a good film, but I just can't. I don't know why. It just hits me right.
Was this the second or the third movie? It's the second, right?
Second, yeah.
Okay.
Vision's in this, right? Paul Bettany, like doing the.
No, he's in the first one.
He's in the first one. Okay.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw Paul Bettany, and I was like,
on the back with whips.
Yeah. No, he's in the first one. This one's got Ewan McGregor. It's got Stellan Skarsgård, and then Tom Hanks, obviously as well.
Nice.
The thing I really remember about this was Ewan McGregor parachuting back into the Vatican. Yeah. That's the scene I remember the most about this movie.
I mean, the whole thing's ludicrous. It's about antimatter and like the God particle and like the Illuminati and stuff. But I'm just like, I don't know. I just, I'm just along for the ride. I'm having a good time.
There is nothing wrong with having, I wouldn't even call this a guilty pleasure, but like a love for code breaking movies. I think they are so fun. Yeah, because you're able to immerse yourself and try and break the secret or the code or whatever it is before, Nick Cage or Tom Hanks or whoever is trying to steal the Declaration of Independence, I think I'm mixing up my movies. I'm not sure.
You might be just a little bit, just a little bit.
Okay.
Well, there you go. There's our number 5 to number 1. Let's talk about some honorable mentions. Why don't you list them off for us, Alice, if you have any?
Yeah, I have plenty. I will say these are mostly my honorable mentions as well because I didn't know if they qualified within the whole has to be mostly set in Italy sort of thing. But just to list some off, I've got Aquaman. Had a good time, enjoyed it. Captain America, the First Avenger, has some moments in Italy apparently, and I was like, cool, I like that movie. The English Patient, like I remember watching it a million years ago and not hating it, so honorable enough.
English Patient.
That makes one of us.
I love that movie, but I'm trying to remember what parts of it takes place. Maybe some flashbacks take place in Italy.
I think so. Yeah, there's some flashbacks. Yeah. Ford versus Ferrari. I really, really love this movie, but I didn't know if enough of it took part in Italy to qualify.
Every single time they go and visit Enzo, it's in Italy.
Yeah, but I
thought about it and decided against it. I love that movie. Love that movie.
Me too.
But yeah, it just didn't feel like quite enough of it took place in Italy. So
yeah, exactly. Kingsman 2, The Golden Circle, that has a scene in Italy. So Pinocchio, the OG Disney one, the 1941.
I had that one in my honorable mentions.
Yeah, that's in one of the most old, like proper Italian fables, Casino Royale, because there is the moment in Venice, and
I was gonna say I thought Monaco was in. It's not in Italy, so, but that's where
yeah, no, they're in Italy when he's like recovering, and that's where like Eva Green dies, and because they're in the canal and all that. Tenet, love that movie. Again, this is a bit of a guilty pleasure. Twilight Saga, New Moon. That's just
nice.
I'm a girl who was a teenager when they came out. Like
you do
front to back. Yeah,
no judgment here.
I had a small obsession with Taylor Lautner. Look, we don't need to talk about it. And then my final movie is The Wolf of Wall Street, because there is a scene or two where they're in Italy. And I really love that movie. And then I have a TV show that I thought would be worth mentioning, which is Medici Masters of Florence. It's 3 seasons. The first season has Richard Madden from Game of Thrones. The second season has Sean Bean in it as well. And it's basically the Medici family are the family that kind of are the reason for the Renaissance. They were a really, really rich family that sponsored artists like Da Vinci and Michelangelo and Botticelli and like helped bring art. And they're the reason the Duomo exists in Florence. And it's just basically about their, how they grew to power and how they achieved all these amazing things. And it's just a really nice show. So can recommend if you're in the mood for that sort of thing.
Okay. You mentioned art. I'll go ahead and add this to my honorable mentions. Agony and the Ecstasy takes place in Italy as well. And this is Charlton Heston playing Leonardo da Vinci. And right? Da Vinci did the Sistine Chapel, right?
No, that was Michelangelo.
Sorry, Michelangelo. That's who he's playing. Michelangelo did the Sistine Chapel. But anyways, it's about the process of Michelangelo, as you prefer. Painting the
and one of the most famous Italian movies of all time is Ben-Hur. So yeah. And then going from there, you have to mention Spartacus.
Got to talk about Spartacus. Yeah.
So those were my 2 honorable mentions, actually. Spartacus and Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur is insane. That is an insane movie.
Yeah, it really
we talked
is.
a long time about how long time ago about like movies with like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where the stunts that they were pulling off in those older movies, they would never get away with today with how dangerous they are. Yeah, like they literally blew up a train car in Butch Cassidy, and here they literally have people crashing in chariots in Ben-Hur. They're like, what are you even doing? Why are you allowing your life to be put on the line for this?
They're just like, why not?
Yeah, there's a stunt man that falls off in front of like all the chariots.
It gets trampled.
He like has to like get through all the horses and wheels and all that stuff, and yeah, it's legit. So you mentioned Spartacus, Man from U.N.C.L.E. Really enjoy the Man from U.N.C.L.E. The Italian Job. It's got Italy right in the title. The 2003
I like both of them
very,
actually.
Very good. Yeah, I think you're right. Only You. Do you remember Only You? This is a guilty pleasure of mine. I think it's a decent movie. It's Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. and Marissa Tomei, I believe, set in Italy, and it's basically a romantic comedy.
I've never seen it.
Only You is the name of that. And then Life is Beautiful. Wanted to mention that as well.
I haven't seen it yet because I know it's going to make me cry.
Yes, and laugh. And cry in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
fun little thing. My mum was friends with Roberto Benigni when she lived in Italy.
Nice.
Yeah, they used to have dinner together all the time, and she told me that like 5 years ago, and I was like, why was I not privy to this knowledge all the time? Anyway.
He had this bad habit at restaurants of climbing up onto the chairs, and you know, it's just that Roberto. What a scamp.
I got halfway through Life is Beautiful, and then I realized I'm not in the proper headspace to truly appreciate this movie.
Sure,
because it's not a movie you can just plug and play.
Yeah. No. You're right. All right, let's move on to our buried treasure for the week. I will kick us off and get mine out of the way so we can focus on you guys. I'm going to talk about Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Finally got a chance to see this one. I did too. I loved it. That should not be a surprise. It is certainly a classic, and many people have talked about it. Sidney Poitier is amazing. As is Hepburn, but the person that kind of floored me was Spencer Tracy. And they're all great. They really are all great. But Spencer Tracy in this movie, even beyond the final speech, which is just so good and so beautiful. Even beyond that, the way he is wrestling, what I loved about it was both him and Katharine Hepburn do a really good job at this. Is they're wrestling in a way that is so honestly positive, and yet they still are recognizing their own biases, their own internal thoughts. This movie, it's hard to believe this movie happened, took place over 50 years ago, because it feels so fresh. Now, is everything holding up? Probably not. There's still some even attitudes under the surface here that we've come to see better now and to understand more now that are still happening. But yeah, for the most part, this movie handles things really well. One of the most interesting conversations in the movie and having outside of the movie is that conversation that we continue to have today about racism, racial injustice, racial biases, systematic racism, all that kind of thing. Is the idea of what it means to be colorblind versus what it means to see the importance of color, see heritage, like all of those kind of things. And this movie seems very much to lean towards colorblind, because that was, that honestly, we would all say that is actually the goal, right? The goal is that it just doesn't matter, but you can't pretend to be colorblind when it obviously does matter, and that's the wrestling that's going on. And I don't know. I found it really beautiful and was really, really glad I took the time to catch up on this. So
it felt very much like a Billy Wilder movie when I first watched it because of how timeless it is. Sure. Yeah, and like you said, performances. I love Sidney Poitier. So
it was interesting. I watched. What was the other movie that he did right around that time that he's well known for? To Sir with
Love. In the Heat of the Night.
No, it was To Sir with Love. So I watched To Sir with Love before I watched Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and Sydney's great in that, like really great in that as well, but nobody else is. The rest of that movie kind of falls apart around him in many ways. So it was really great to see him in this and to be backed up by other great performances and just to kind of see it clicking in this way. So,
But did you see the follow-up, the 2005 Guess Who with Ashton Kutcher and Bernie Mac?
No, I can't say that I did. I can't say that if I did that I remember that. So my apologies. All right, Andrew, I'm really excited. Go ahead. Tell us what you did.
You've already thrown it up. I love it.
It's already there.
Yeah. So
bring it on. Let's talk.
Yeah. Okay. I got to give backstory on this. So for those of you who don't know, like we said last week, Aaron and I had not seen each other's favorite #1 movie of all time. So I hadn't seen Singing in the Rain, and he hadn't seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yes.
I planned on sending Phil a message saying whenever Aaron does The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for his buried treasure, because I knew he would let me know because I'd already seen Singing in the Rain. Um, I forgot to send the message, and Aaron pulled the fast one on me, so I'm 1 week behind. But going in now, I was probably more zero frame pledge on this movie than any movie I'd seen. Going into this, I knew I'm singing in the rain, what a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. That's literally the only lyrics and the only thing I knew about this movie.
Okay.
So I had no idea going into this movie what I was going to get. And I got to tell you right now, what I got was not what I expected.
Okay.
I love this movie. I beyond adore this movie. I mean, Gene Kelly he's one of the most charismatic and lovable guys. Why had I not seen this movie earlier?
Yeah.
His smile, his charm, his charisma is so intoxicating. You just want to know and just hang out with this guy forever and ever. He is so good. The dance choreography in this movie is out of this world.
It's insane.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the actual. I knew my alarm was going to go if I tried to stop before it did. But actually, I think Donald O'Connor is probably my favorite person in this movie.
Yes.
He's just so lovable.
So talented.
Yeah. Aaron, you would know the name of the song, but it's something like
Make 'em Laugh.
Make 'em Laugh was hilarious, but
Moses supposes Moses are roses.
Yeah, that might be my favorite song in the entire movie.
That dance routine is I think my favorite dance in the entire movie is the Moses supposes dance. The tap breakdown they do together in that is so good and so technically astounding, and they're so in sync. That scene blows me away.
Both of them, especially Gene Kelly, they make that look so effortless, because on the surface, like if you look up top there, they're just doing like this, just swaying back and forth, but their feet are going river dance on me. And I'm like, I can't keep up with how you're doing this. This is probably, I don't know if it'll crack my top 100 movies of all time, but the more I sit on it, the more and more I love this movie. It's so good. There's only one scene in this movie that I really kind of was like, I could have done without it, and it was the I guess you could say the imagination of what a future scene would have looked like, and it's like this rundown of him dancing with this woman. Having said that, though, there was a scene that was like one of the most beautiful scenes in the movie where she has this like 50-foot long dress tail that is going in the wind, and I'm like, oh my god, this is one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. I kind of like the movie. I guess it's okay. Now,
I'm glad you like it. It's a lot of fun.
I know there's a lot of people out there who feel pressured into saying that this is their favorite movie of all time, and I get it.
But is it overrated? Is it overrated? That's the real
That's
question.
a conversation we need
this
to have.
one isn't.
No, it's not overrated at all.
I will
Aaron,
say it's not.
Aaron, I fully understand why this is your favorite movie of all time. I totally
Thank
get
you.
it. And this is coming from somebody who's not a fan of musicals. I should say that. Just like you last week were saying you're not a fan of Westerns.
Yeah, and I totally understand why Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is your number one. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, you didn't mention Debbie Reynolds. I have to just shout out every time I talk about this movie the fact that she's 18 when she made this movie, and she is holding her own with Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor. It is insane. That Good Morning routine, the three of them, is just pure magic.
Good morning.
So,
Gene, is it Gene Hagen or Hagen?
Hagen, I think.
I don't remember.
She's so funny. Yeah, I love her character in this. That Marilyn Monroe-esque, so deep valley accent that she's pulling off. It's great. Yeah, I love this movie.
Yep. Alice, you enjoy this as well?
I think this was like the first old movie I ever watched. But I love it so much. Like, as you were saying all the songs, I was just singing them in my head. And just so much, it's just a delightful film. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a delight to watch all the way through, whether it's, you know, the sadder songs or the happier songs, and the love story is beautiful. And I love movies about movies. So you've got me there. You know, I'm a musical fan. This is going to sound, again, controversial. I don't like La La Land, but I really like this one. I know. I'm sorry. I'm just going to drop that in and we'll park that and come back to that.
But I like how Aaron looked like he had a little like minor aneurysm there for a second. Like, what?
I've recovered. Yeah. I'm okay. Yeah. It's all right.
But this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's just perfect. Everything about it. I just love it so much.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 70 next year it'll be 70 years old.
Wow.
70 years old.
It holds up so well.
It's incredible how well it holds up. It's just pure joy, pure magic. Yeah, it's so fun when film can capture something like that. There
are certain movies where after you watch it, you're mad at yourself for like, why hadn't I seen this earlier? I could have had, you know, so many decades where I could have known and appreciated this movie. Sure. And this is one of those. After I watched it, one of the emotions I was thinking is, why hadn't I seen this movie? I love it.
All right, Alice, what do you got? What's your buried treasure for the week?
All right. I have an anime. It is called Bofuri, also known as I Don't Want to Get Hurt, so I'll max out my defense. It is
already love it.
Yeah. Don't you love those random anime titles that are like 8 to 10 words long? But Bofuri for shortened. So right now, if you want to watch it, it's on Hulu and also Funimation in the US. But basically what it is, my partner recently signed up for Funimation here, like the subscription service. Yep. And because we're both working from home at the moment, we're like, why don't we just pick an anime and we'll watch an episode every lunchtime sort of thing. And we, you know, he'd heard this one was pretty good and we were like, yeah, all right, let's watch it. And we both fell in love with it. We just ended up watching the whole thing within a few days. It basically takes place, it's called an isekai, I think is the type of anime it is, which is basically an anime where people get transported into a virtual world. And it follows this girl whose friend basically is like, oh, you need to sign up. There's this new VR game that's come out. We really need to play it, like sign up. And so this girl like isn't really a gamer and she like signs up, and as she starts playing the game, she accidentally herself into being the most invincible character in the entire game. Because as it says in the title, like they basically can assign their stats where they want for their character, and she puts them all into every single stat into defense. So even at the beginning, nothing can hurt her. And so then what happens is she keeps like doing things that are completely against what a traditional gamer would do. Mm-hmm. And then she just becomes more powerful. So for example, in the first episode, she's fighting a boss and she doesn't have like any attack. She only has defense. So she's not getting hurt. But what happens is she doesn't have anything to attack the boss with. And so she's like, well, I guess I could eat it. It's not like this is real. So she just starts eating it and defeats the boss. And then she ends up gaining this like huge power that allows her to use its like skills in battle. And so it's just so funny because every episode she just keeps gaining more skills and more invulnerability and becoming just this like god tier character. And then there's all these gamers around who are just like, oh, you're even more powerful now. Oh, great. But she's like not a gamer at all. So she's just like, oh, I don't know. I went on this journey and now I can fly. Everyone's just always just like, oh, okay. Yep. Cool. Very cool. And it's just so wholesome. You need to. It's only, I think, 12 episodes because season 1's only just dropped. It's just so nice. Like every now and again, you just want to watch something that's nice and wholesome and just about people who are in this game having a good time. And then this girl who's accidentally herself into being one of the greatest players of all time. And it's really great because there's these bits where you have the admins of the game who are constantly like, why does she keep doing this? How do we defeat her? And then just getting so frustrated because she keeps doing so well and like basically cheating the game accidentally. But it's really great. I really recommend it. It's got some really great moments, really fantastic characters. And again, it's only 12 episodes. So 12 episodes, 20 something minutes each. You can smash through that pretty quickly.
Nice. Well, there you go. That is Beau Furry on Hulu. If you want to watch it there. Singing in the Rain is on HBO Max. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is available via rent on all the services if you want to rent that one. Well, we did it, guys.
Woo!
We did a podcast.
You did.
Set out to make it happen, and we accomplished our goals. Congratulations to all. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sif Pop is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out with us again today.
Thank you, buddy.
Huge thanks to Phil, producer Phil, for producing the audio show this week.
Hey, Phil.
Thanks to Drew for providing the art for the video show this week.
Big claps.
And thank you again to Alice for coming by once again. Alice, what do you want to promote? Where do you want to send people? What do you want to tell people about?
Well, once again, I have my Instagram or Letterbox has the same username, which is Ali G Mick. Obviously, I'm also one of the writers for sifpop.com. So every now and again, I'll drop articles. I recently dropped my review for the new Netflix show Sweet Tooth. So head on over there to check that out. And then again, my friends and I are going through all of Disney at the moment, but right now we're up to, we're doing the MCU and we're up to Avengers Age of Ultron, I believe, or Captain America Winter Soldier. No, we're up to Captain America Winter Soldier. Oh gosh, there's too many movies. And so we'll be doing that next. And you can find that on Instagram at once.upon.a.marathon. Yeah.
Is this your first time going through the MCU?
So what happened was basically, just to give you some context, Andrew, we were watching every single Disney movie that's ever been made, and we made it halfway through the 60s when we realized that one of our trio hadn't seen any of the MCU. And we were just like, no, that's not all right. We're not waiting until we're like illegal. 80 and we finally reach the MCU movies. So we're just like, we're going to pause that. And now we're going to make you watch all of the MCU and then we'll go back to doing those. So we're just taking a pause because we always want to talk about it and she has no idea what's going on, especially with the TV shows and everything. So that's why we're doing that at the moment. And it's really fun. It's so great watching someone who's never seen the MCU react to things. And like, for example, in Avengers, she got really upset over Coulson's death. And we're like, oh, honey, you have no idea.
our sweet,
there's
sweet
a
summer
show
Marvel
for
child.
you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, very nice. Make sure you check all that stuff out. And thank you to our Sif Pop members for supporting us. Support starts at $3 a month. You get access to bonus episodes at the $5 a month level. And then you can check out the other levels to see the fun stuff there, including a monthly video hangout. All the information is at Patreon, patreon.com/SifPop. If you want to connect with us, feel free to leave a comment or a rating or a review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. You can also email us, feedback@sifpop.com if you have a question or a comment. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too, so let them know about it and that listening is much easier than finding a cooler way to travel than a Vespa. We will be back next week with F9 and the Ice Road, so we will see you then.
All right.
Road
Truckers, the movie.
Live? No, that's not what it... Well, maybe it is. I don't know. What do I know? I don't watch any previews. Maybe it is Ice Road Truckers, the movie. I have no idea. Patricia, Wada, Will, and Rockman, thanks for hanging out with us today during the live show. Appreciate you guys, and we will catch you the next time. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.